This is the OTP presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. When it's game day for your health coverage, trust Farm Bureau Health Plans to draw up a winning play for you. They've been backing Tennesseans for nearly 80 years. So pleased to now be joined by Titans head coach Brian Callahan. Titans fall in Washington by a count of 42-19. So, Brian, after you got on the plane and you're sitting there watching the tape of Sunday's loss, was there anything on that tape at all that surprised you?
No, I mean, I think surprise is maybe the wrong word.
Okay. Give me a better one.
There was some things that I was disappointed by. Just overall execution part of it was left a little to be desired, obviously. But yeah, it was a game that I didn't think at any point, and I don't think our team felt at any point that should have looked the way it did by the end of it. That was a team that I thought we could compete with, and in the second half we did. And when you just take the second half alone and how we played, that was much better than how we played to start the game. And it was more just an avalanche of things that just it just spiraled, and it happens sometimes like that. But it was disappointing to see it just sort of get out of hand before we even really had a chance to start playing. That was the disappointing part. There was some things that were positive. I think Wills kind of stacked another positive performance together. I thought he did some nice things. I think Daryl Worley coming off the street a couple weeks ago and having 17 tackles and playing nickel and safety was pretty impressive. But overall, just too many mistakes early on in the game and got away from us quickly and couldn't climb out of it.
Was your message to the team much different on Monday than it was immediately after the game on Sunday?
No, it was exactly the same, and probably maybe even a little bit more strongly worded today than it was yesterday. Just because of, you watch the things and we do too many things over the course of a game that put us in position to lose and not win. And that's one of the things I've stressed since I've gotten here is that you have to do things a particular way to give yourself a chance to win the game. And too many times this year we've done those things where we've not given ourselves a chance to win the game. When you have penalties the way we've had penalties and controllable penalties that are focus related and execution related, and then you have turnovers. Those are two very, very glaring statistics that over the history of football would tell you that the more of those you have, the worse off your team is going to be, and the more games you're going to lose. And right now we're in a bad spot in all of those places. So I have to find a way to do that a lot better.
What specifically did the tape show about why the Titans had difficulty stopping the Commanders' run game?
I'll give credit where credit is due. They do a nice job with the run game there in Washington. I think Jaden Daniels adds an element to their run game that's not standard. It's a lot like little Baltimore. There's just some things about the quarterback run game that you don't see a lot in the NFL. But there are some teams that do some of it, but they do it particularly well. They use some of their gap schemes that we misfit on some of the runs. We didn't fit the gaps right, and when you're in some of these kind of one back run games, the term you usually hear is kind of one back, one back, one gap, and when you're out of one of those gaps, that's where 30-yard runs come in. And we just and it's everybody has to do their job at the right spot at the right time in order to knock the run out, which we've done a very, very good job of for most of the year. And that one caught us a couple of times early in the game. And, then the score of the game allowed them to continue to run the ball at a rate that isn't necessarily normal for the course of a game, but they got up big enough and they could just keep handing it off and keep running the ball.
So let's pull at that thread a little bit more. Was there anything that the Commanders did or didn't do in their running game that surprised you?
No, those are all the things that they've done were schemes that they've shown on tape, and there wasn't anything, earth-shattering about how they came into the game, and they just executed at a high level, and we didn't, and we put ourselves in some spots where we had to get one more guy in the fit, and we had to make a tackle, and then we didn't do those things, and That's usually what happens in a game like that when it gets away. And then again, they continued to run the ball when they were up some scores and allowed for some production on the ground that I think 9 out of 10 weeks it probably doesn't look like that, but it did on Sunday.
The Commanders were 4 of 4 converting 3rd and 1s, 4 of 5 converting 3rd and 2s. Now, before you get into the why of them being able to convert at such a high level, I mean, you have 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2, you've got a good percentage of conversion. Is just the overall number of chances they had on 3rd and short the real problem?
Yes, and that's one of the things that every offense in the league preaches, and we certainly preach the same, is that you want to be in as 3rd and manageable as possible. And they'd find a way to get 4 or 5 yards on 2 different plays, and all of a sudden it was 3rd and 2. And it felt like it. Every time I looked up, I'm like, what is it, 3rd and 1 again? And then, they're like, yep, 3rd and 1 again. I'm like, okay, well, feels like it's a lot, and it was. I mean, they were inside of 3rd and 5, I think, 7 or 8 times? I mean, maybe
Crazy.
more. I mean, and so they did a great job of how we term it as staying on schedule on your early downs and giving yourself very 3rd and manageables where you can still even run the ball and feel good about it. And we didn't give ourselves the old adage in the NFL is that you have to earn the right to rush the passer, and we didn't earn the right to rush the passer because we didn't knock the run out well enough to put them in spots where they had to throw the football. There wasn't enough opportunities for that, and that's a big part of playing successful offensive football is being manageable, and the good defenses keep you out of those spots and make you have to drop back and throw or hold the ball or whatever it may be in the 3rd and 8, 9, 10, 11 range, and we didn't do enough to get them in those spots where over the last handful of weeks we've done that.
You mentioned Darryl Worley credited with 17 tackles in the game. The last time a Titan was credited with 17 tackles in a game, September 23rd, 2012, Akeem Ayers against Detroit.
I remember Akeem.
Akeem Ayers,
Yeah,
good player, UCLA guy.
Yeah.
And the last time somebody had more, Michael Griffin, 18 tackles the previous week against San Diego, September 16th, 2012. When a defensive back has that many tackles, that
means
bad?
the ball's in the secondary more than you want it to be. The other part of that, too, is that actually Worley played both positions. He played safety for the majority of the beginning of the game, and then when Roger got knocked out, he moved into nickel. So that shows his versatility. When you're in a nickel, you're going to have way more action in the run game and tackling. So that's probably where most of those ended up stacking up. He probably would have had a pretty normal safety number game, but the nickel reps, I think, picked that number up for him as the game went along. But really a credit to him. He's only been here for 2 or 3 weeks, and to be able to jump in and play safety and then go play nickel in the same game is pretty impressive. So, happy that we have him, and he did a nice job showing up for us in 2 different roles where we needed him.
Why has he been able to be so productive here in this defense specifically?
Well, he played it in Baltimore. That's part of it. There's some familiarity with the scheme and Denard and what's asked of him, and that was one of the reasons why signing him when we needed some depth and some pieces was a part of bringing him in, is that he could probably function pretty quickly and didn't have to get up to speed, if you will. He already had most of the things down pat, and so you see that from him. And on top of that, he's played a lot of football. He's played corner in the league, he's played safety in the league. He's sort of done everything, and you see that from him when he goes and plays like that.
Let's flip over to offense a little bit. You mentioned earlier that it felt like this team could never actually play because of the deficit that started so early in the game. Does it also make it hard for you to evaluate the performance of the offense because they never could just play?
Yes and no. I mean, yes in the terms, yes, because it just became a drop-back passing game, which we didn't want to do, obviously, and that's. But there's things to evaluate within that, but we didn't ever really get to the plan. We kind of got knocked out of it so fast that we didn't have a chance to actually do some of the things that we liked in the game plan, and especially in the run game and the play actions. And, we looked up and it was like we had run 10 plays on offense, which is partly our fault offensively. We didn't convert, I think 2 third downs there. We don't convert, and then we turn the ball over on the third series, and then that was that. And it's 21-0, 28-0 before you even – I feel like I hadn't even gotten into the opening plays yet, and we're in that spot. So – that was disappointing that we couldn't see what the game plan was going to look like, but there's also plenty of things to evaluate from how we did play and the things we did in the passing game over the course of the game.
Take it further with Will Levis. How do you evaluate him and consider him to have stacked another good performance when the game was just so out of hand so quickly?
We kept fighting in there. That was one of the things. He kept finding ways to move the team, and we, we score a touchdown at the end of the half in the 2-minute drill. We come out and we put ourselves in two field goal spots. Again, those are moments though that had we gotten touchdowns in those spots, maybe we got a whole different second half on our hands. Instead of kicking 2 field goals in those drives. But there was a lot of good things. I mean, it's the most probably drop back passing that he's been put through in a course of a game, and we dropped some balls, which was disappointing. And the protection's hard when you're just dropping back, and you got to get guys out in the pattern. And so we had some protection issues as well. But just to see the way he fought, he found completions, he's playing on time. He created a couple plays, still working on that part as, the feel in the pocket and getting out and creating more when you have opportunities. But I thought it was another solid game for him, just doing the things that you just want to see a quarterback do. Wasn't a winning effort overall, but just if you're just talking evaluation of growth, I think there was more of that again this week.
39 dropbacks, only 2 sacks for a total of -2 yards. That would tell us on paper the offensive line's protection was pretty good.
It was okay. It was okay. It was I think Will did a good job a couple of times. One of the things we've been talking about is the early down sacks. That's why some of the sack totals are high in some of these games, and it's just about just throw the ball away and let us live for 2nd and 10, not 2nd and 17. And he did that 2 or 3 times. He threw the ball away a few times, and so that's going to hurt his completion percentage, but it's going to help our offense overall. And just to see that happen, I think 2 or 3 times he just threw it away. It's like, great, that's good. That's good. That's growth. And so it helped us not take 4 or 5 more sacks in the game because he just threw 2 or 3 of them away, and that's great. It's what we're hoping for, and he's learning every game he goes out there, more and more about how to efficiently play the position, and then making some big throws and making some big plays when he had to.
Hey Titans fans, with a Kroger Boost membership, you'll score big with double fuel points, free delivery, and lots more. Go to Kroger.com/boost for details. Kroger, official grocer of the Tennessee Titans. Tighten up.
Home is at the forefront of all that we do. It's why we're so committed to caring for the places and spaces in which we work and live. Ashley, the official furniture provider of the Tennessee Titans. We continue with Titans head coach Brian Callahan, so let's now turn to this week's opponent, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Their quarterback Trevor Lawrence suffered a concussion in Sunday's game against Houston, so yet again the Tennessee Titans are not sure what quarterback they're going to be seeing on Sunday. In the event that he can't go against the Titans, Mac Jones came in and played pretty well against the Houston Texans, all things considered. What does Mac Jones bring to the Jags offense?
He was a first-round pick. He played quite a bit of football over his first couple of years, and you see that. You see a guy's got some skills and some talent, and he's played good college football. He had some good, he's had a really good, first year, I think, in New England. And there's some things about him that that he's not a throwaway. He's not just, he's not some bum off the street. Like, Mac can play football, and they got good weapons there. They got good talent in Jacksonville, and they haven't put theirs together for whatever reason, but their record's similar to ours, probably for a lot of the same reasons that ours is not great either. And so we're gonna have to fight like hell to be able to go try to get a win at home here against a divisional opponent. And Mac is certainly he's respectable, and I mean we should be respectful of his ability to move the team and score touchdowns because he's done that before.
Rookie first-round pick Brian Thomas has also been playing great lately. On Sunday, he added 4 more catches for 76 yards and a touchdown, and that includes a 56-yard reception. What is he doing so well that's allowing him to have such a strong rookie season?
Yeah, you see he was prepared and ready when he came in, and guy that we looked in the draft as well, and one of those guys you're like, this guy's going to be a good player, and guy has all the requisite skill set. He can run, he can catch, he's strong, he's fast. And they put him in positions to let him showcase those skills, and he continues to make the plays when he's been called upon. So, good player. Come on really strong for a rookie receiver. I think he's up there with rookie players for sure in terms of production. Got our hands full with him. I mean, he's proven that he's capable of being a upper echelon receiver in the league.
Does he essentially, and I mean Brian Thomas, does he essentially play the role that Calvin Ridley did for Jacksonville a year ago?
There's probably some similarities, without really studying all of it. There's also probably things that he does. There's a different style player than Calvin is, so I'm sure they use him differently, route tree wise, and maybe some things they try to do for him than they did with Calvin. Not saying it's dramatically different, but there's probably some differences because they're both different style players.
Let's turn to defense. How about Trayvon Walker?
Would love to.
Go.
I mean, he's had a great year 3, and he had another sack on Sunday. So why is he becoming such a problem for opposing offenses?
Well, I think edge rushers in general, very few come in and make immediate big-time impacts. You look over time, it takes them 2 or 3 years because in college they're usually just bigger, faster, and stronger than the competition, and they let that win for them. When you get up here, you realize that you have to have rush plans and rush counters, and you see all different styles of tackles, and you see all different styles of good players, and you have to develop a repertoire and a pass rush toolbox, if you will. And so I think what you're seeing is the benefit of playing over time now that you're starting to see him come into his own. And I would say usually that year 3, 4 for pass rushers is when they tend to really show up because they've gotten the experience behind them and they understand how to play the game and how to rush over time, as opposed to just running fast and being big and strong.
Ryan Nielsen is the defensive coordinator. He's just come over from Atlanta. How would you characterize the Jags' defensive style since we haven't seen them yet this year?
Yeah, they got an aggressive style in the secondary. They'll press. They like to play a lot of, you can call it man coverage if you will. It's got a very loose term, but they do a lot of things where they're trying to challenge receivers. And they got good talent on defense. I mean, they played pretty good yesterday against Houston as well. And that collection of players, the rushers, and then the scheme is one that going into the year I felt like was going to be a really good pairing between him and that scheme and the players that they had there. And so I think they've had ups and downs just like everybody does during the year, but there's a lot of things about the aggressiveness of the scheme, the coverage aggressiveness that is good, and it's hard to play against. I mean, we had a hard time playing against them in Atlanta, a couple years ago, even in the preseason, just the aggressiveness of the scheme. So I think it's a pretty good pairing, and again, they've had their ups and downs too, but they got talent. It's a good scheme.
So Sunday is my cause, my cleats for the Tennessee Titans. Why do players love that game so much?
Oh, so many of these guys do so much work out in the community, and they have things that they're very passionate about, causes, foundations, charities that really mean something to them. And it's just a chance to be able to highlight the work that they do. I think it's a great initiative that the league does and allows guys to show a little bit of their personality and show the things that they support and what's important to them. And they do a nice job of highlighting all the things these guys do and the impact that they make in communities. And I think it's really cool. I love seeing all the stuff that they do to wherever their heart is and what they support. I think it's pretty awesome.
It's December now, and a lot of things happen in December. One of those things is some tweaks and changes to the practice schedule or practice routine sometimes. Are you going to be switching anything up this week, given that your defense specifically was on the field for over 40 minutes and played something like 77 snaps?
Yeah. Those are things that we look at, and we got all the folks down at the performance side of it with the we track everything over time and all the different GPS tracking and player metrics and accelerations and decelerations and all the things that go into a game. And so they usually come up with some pretty good recommendations about, hey, if you need to back down here, we can ramp up here, but you still want to make sure you're getting work in and you're still practicing. And there's still a flow to get ready for a game where they get a little bit of time, but you still want to work and ramp into it, and you sort of back down by the end of the week, and you try to keep that consistent. I think we've done a really good job of the schedule management for the players, and so that's something that we'll definitely look at, especially as you get late in this season of where you can pick and choose your times to recover some versus work. And it's a delicate balance because you need both. You still need to work, you need to practice, but you also need to make sure you're ready to go on Sunday.
Hey, Titans fans, SeatGeek makes it easy to find tickets so you can be a part of all the touchdown celebrations this season.
Whether you're buying or selling football tickets, SeatGeek is the place to do it. SeatGeek is the official primary ticketing partner of the Tennessee Titans.
The most disruptive idea in ticketing, a ticket that works. Expect the expected.
SeatGeek.
SeatGeek. Made a rookie mistake this football season? Maybe you should have had a Snickers.
Because now you can enter for the chance to turn those rookie mistakes into prizes, including a trip to Super Bowl 59.
Visit Snickers.com/rookie mistakes for details.
One more for you. 2-point conversion success this year is down nearly 20% from last year.
Wow.
Actually came up after this weekend's games. It's 37%.
Yeah, it's low.
Why do you think it's been harder for teams to convert 2-point conversions this season at such a dramatically reduced rate?
It's a really good question. I did some research on this a couple weeks back when there was all those couple of games where everybody had opportunities to try to go for a win, similar to maybe what Indy did against New England this weekend. But that going for the win spot, at the end of regulation, and you just look at what the numbers are, and they're kind of jarring. I mean, your conversion success rate right now in 2 points is, like I said, is very low. It's not good. It used to be about 50%. Why that is I'd have to study that. I have to really look at it. My guess would be that there's the teams in the low red zone. I think some of the defenses down there have gotten pretty good. They kind of are aware of all the different schemes. Some of these teams are really aggressive, but they can match and they pass things off. They're just the defenses, I think, are really right now in the league in the low red zone are good. They're making it really difficult to score and convert when you're in scoring position. That would be my general hypothesis, if you will.
Did the analytics of that, knowing that the numbers have been reduced so dramatically this year, the success rate is so much lower, did that impact your decision to go ahead and go for 2 at 35-19?
No, that was strictly more of a score differential for us, and that's just getting 2 would put us in position to cut the score possessions down. We're only going to have so many more possessions left in that game anyway, and trying to go for 2 would put us in a spot where at least we get to the end potentially and know what we needed and where we needed to be at. So that was less related to taking any chance necessarily or numbers on conversions. It was more about we need this for the next 3 possessions to know where we're going to be at, and just sort of a numbers game for that part.
We always appreciate you. Thanks for taking time.
You got it.
Coach Brian Callahan joining us every week.